Live from Orlando, Florida, you're now listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Orlando Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the OZone Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings and part of the Basketball Podcast Network. We are your hosts, Al, myself, Anthony. Today's Saturday, August 27th. In today's episode, we have very special guests joining us all the way from the United Kingdom, from the Penny for Your Thoughts podcast, Paul and Mikey. What's going on, gentlemen?
Hey, how you doing?
Guys?
Good to join you. Thanks for having us.
Good. I finally feel like we finally got you guys to join us. I think we tried at least 3 or 4 times, and it's mainly our fault. It was either I had something come up last minute or Al had something come up last minute. So really excited that we were finally able to get a date and time to actually get this done. So really excited for you guys to join us. How have your last weeks been? So far, I mean, the offseason been it's been a little rough because we had a little excitement with the Pro-Am, and now we're at a point where there's just nothing really going on. How excited are you guys that, eventually soon, within the next month and a half or so, we're finally going to get some Magic basketball?
Go, Mike. You go first.
Yeah, well, it's been actually quite nice having a few quiet weeks. I think you guys are probably feeling the same. As we had the tough year last year, 22 wins. Then we had the excitement around the NBA draft and drafting Paolo #1 and Caleb Houston. Then we had NBA Summer League. So it's quite nice. Now we're in the calm before the storm. But yeah, like you said, we're only a few weeks away. We've got Eurobasket coming up in a few weeks' time as well. And then we'll be straight into training camp. And then we'll get to see you guys in October.
October. Myself,
so you guys.
Sorry, Anthony. Go.
Yeah, you guys are coming in October. And how long are you guys going to be here for?
I'm over for 3 weeks. I'm over for opening night of the NBA. So Magic opening night in the Amway as well. And then Mikey, you arrive a week after myself, don't you?
Yeah.
And we get to take in a few games together, which will be absolutely brilliant. Just looking forward to getting back to Orlando, to the parks, but more importantly, getting into the Amway again and seeing the team that we all love. It's going to be amazing. So I was talking to a friend at the team the other day, and I said the last game that we were at was games 3 and 4 in the 2019 playoffs. There are 3 guys remaining in that squad that are part of the team now. We are going to see a whole different team. It's going to be very, very exciting for us.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
So let me ask, how does this happen? How is it that you guys have a podcast, you live in the United Kingdom, you guys travel to Orlando often, or not often? You mentioned offline that it's been a few years since you've been here, but is there really a big following in the United Kingdom for the Orlando Magic? Like, where did they even come from?
Yeah, we've probably got the best fan base in the UK over here.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think part of that with it being one of the biggest tourist destinations, that helps. We get a lot of people. That's how I became a Magic fan back in the early 2000s. I went over on vacation and caught a Magic game when T-Mac was the franchise player back then. And I've been a Magic fan ever since. And I think the same sort of thing happens for people. They're on holiday and they think, I'll catch an NBA game. They go watch the Magic and they get hooked. So we've got loads and loads of dedicated guys that better than me and Paul that stay up to the early hours of the morning every single night. Watch it. Like, you think when we play on the West Coast and you're playing 2 a.m., 3 a.m. tip-offs against like the Warriors and the Lakers, these guys are staying up every hour under the sun watching the Magic. So I can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
I feel hungover the next day if I do so. But yeah, the fan base over here is massive.
And there's enough numbers staying up and watching that the private Twitter group that we've got for talking all things Magic has conversations going on between guys about the plays and all these sorts of things and what they would like to see happening in the game. As if you were sat there. That's at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Incredible support that the team's got from UK fan base, and those guys are so dedicated. I can't do it.
We had to laugh. We have to laugh when you guys are like, "Oh, I can't stand a 10 a.m. tip, a 10 p.m. tip off on the West Coast."
I give
That's
you guys
luxury.
credit. I give you guys so much credit because anytime we go on a West Coast road trip and the game's at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and it's the third quarter and it's already like 11:30, I'm just like, dude, I gotta wake up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, get the kids ready and go to work. Like I struggle. So I give you guys a lot of credit for being as committed. Because if it was the other way around, I would record it and I'd watch it the day after.
Yeah.
Turn off all electronic devices so I don't know the score.
You've
So I was
got to
gonna
love
ask-
NBA League Pass for that.
Yeah, I
that's
was going
right.
to ask, is that what you guys do? So you guys, of course,
Yeah.
don't want to stay up that late. You guys wake up the next day and watch the game the next day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's usually what, yeah.
Yeah, that's my key
Your
and I
call.
without a doubt. Yeah,
Makes
that's the way I
sense.
do it.
Well, we had the schedule come out last week, so you guys are looking at like, I don't know, Warriors and all the big games. We're looking at like, right, how many games are starting before midnight in the UK? And I think it's like 15 this season. But yeah,
We've done really well this season on the schedule for early tips as far as UK times go. It's
There you
been
go.
really good for that.
Yeah, man. Like I said, the dedication definitely is there. Again, we appreciate the support. Again, I know it's hard to do, and you guys find a way to do it and maintain that fan base motivated and energized in the UK. So thank you for all the hard work that you guys do out there. Let's talk about some Magic basketball, some NBA actually first. We're gonna lead up today with the news of Chet missing the entire 2022-2023 season due to a foot injury suffered last weekend at the crossover event out there, the Pro AM. So I want to just throw it out there. And Mikey, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this? Mainly considering the fact that so many of us thought, hey, it's Chet the guy, it's Paolo, it's Jabari the guy. And many agreed that Chet might have been that guy for us. Let's play what if for a second. What if the Magic had drafted him number 1 and this was the outcome? So what are your thoughts on all of that?
well, we won't be coming in October. No, I'm joking. No, it would have really deflated us, wouldn't it, to start the season had that have been us that picked Chet number 1. You got to feel really sorry for the kid. His first chance at NBA basketball, and this happens. I know it's quite a rare injury that happens to NBA players. I was having a look. There's a really good YouTube channel called by Dr. Evan Jeffries, who's a physical therapist, and he does a lot of videos breaking down sports injuries, and he was sort of explaining that. And there's only a couple of other NBA players. I think Udonis Haslem was one of them that have had surgery following this Liz Frank injury. So yeah, his frame was a real concern. I mean, I've on record on our podcast, I certainly talked about this in depth with my history. Is like I've been a personal trainer for 15 odd years and deal with all that sort of stuff. So yeah, his weight, his frame, his ability to build that core and hip strength is certainly something the guy needs to do. And he's got a full year now that he can get over the injury and work on those sorts of things heading into the following year. But yeah, it's not a nice way to start the season. And I feel a bit sorry for people that are celebrating the fact that we're like, I told you so. There's no need for that necessarily. But yeah, I feel sorry for the kid, but hopefully he can recover quickly.
Without doubt, it was always the concern about him. And as Mikey has said about being on record, I never warmed to him during the draft process. But that being said, it was just something about his demeanour I didn't get. I just didn't warm to him. But I was genuinely looking forward to seeing him play. Going against Paolo, I think it would have been really interesting to see what the guy could produce in the NBA. I feel for the guy, and I genuinely hope he comes through. And I'm looking forward to seeing him come back next season. I'm not going to celebrate somebody getting injured. You can't do it.
Yeah, I think that when we look at the 3 players from this draft that really had the name, it was Chet, Paolo, and Jabari.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people were really interested to see the battle between Chet and Paolo the most. And I think that with the Orlando Magic really just getting one real national game, and it was going to be against OKC, and we didn't get a chance to see Paolo versus Chet and the Pro Am. We kind of missed that. Also, we didn't see in the Summer League. We were really like I was really anticipating that game. Like that was a game that I was gonna make sure that I didn't go to work that day. Like that whole entire day was gonna be dedicated to the anticipation of Paolo and Chet. So the fact that we're not gonna get that, it's a huge bummer. But you do feel bad for Chet. You do feel bad for OKC. At the same time, you know, that injury, whether you say that it's because of his slim frame or whatever case may be, the court was a major issue. If anyone watched that pro-am, and I watched the live feed on it, it was a mess from even before tip off. From my understanding, everything, the AC wasn't working, fire alarm went off, the floor was slippery, they had to cut the game halfway through, and it makes you almost think like, man, this could have really happened to anyone. Fortunately, it happened to Chet, but who knows? It could have happened to Paolo. So then it makes you question, all right, so Paolo played in the summer league, and he only played a couple games until the Magic decided, all right, we've seen enough. You know, we want him to rest up. That's it. But yet he plays in how many pro-am games? Like he did it for Zekin, for Isaiah Thomas's. He did it for the crossover. I believe there was maybe another one, but he's been playing a lot of these games. And even some of the Black Ops that we've seen him take part in also. And it's like, man, I wish that there was a way that these teams can kind of, you know, make these players like not participate in things like that, where it's like really competitive. And it makes you worry because now OKC, their investment in Chet, you know, that's gone for the season. Now, who knows, because of his frame, if those injuries are going to linger and maybe cause any other problems later down the road. You know, I'm very fortunate and happy that it didn't happen to Paolo, but it's definitely very unfortunate.
We already know that had we selected Chet, you're looking at Twitter being full of the calls that we are tanking again.
Yep.
I don't want another season of that. No.
Now, Mikey, I'm going to ask you, because you said you have a little experience with this. Do you think that if it wasn't Chet in that moment, in that play, guarding LeBron, and it was Paolo, do you feel that Paolo may have experienced the same type of injury, or do you feel as if his body type would have prevented that injury? Like, did it not help Chet Holmgren, the fact that he has the body type that he has, causing that injury?
I think that's certainly part of it. Like you said, I think the conditions certainly played a part as well. And when you look at what's the kid, 195 pounds, and he's going up against LeBron. I mean, it's like running into a freight train, isn't it? So, yeah, I don't know. It's very difficult to tell because, I mean, a lot of these kids will go through all these different tests and conditioning workouts and everything else, and that it's all about the core stability and the hip stability. And if you don't have that, and I think I've read a bit about Steph Curry when he dealt with like ankle injuries when he was in his early days in the NBA, he sort of dealt with these same sort of problems where he needed to work on that core strength, that hip strength, because it connects to your lower leg. So if that's not as strong as it needs to be as durable to last an 82 game season, then it's going to have a knock-on effect on other joints, and you increase that risk of injuries in other body parts, really. But yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to say, but I mean, we would have been disappointed. But I do feel like people are slightly overinflating this a little bit, because this has gone on every summer for years and years and years. I think just nowadays with social media, these players are getting more exposure in workouts and hype videos in the summer and pro-ams and all these things, that a lot of these players are probably playing all summer regardless. It's just now there's a little bit more of a spotlight on it. So yeah, they're going to come under a little bit more scrutiny if something happens like this. But I don't think you can really stop it, because you could get hurt in practice, couldn't you? So
that is true.
It's just one of those things for me. But
yeah, because I can't think of another player, and maybe definitely not as high caliber as a player of Chet, who's coming into his rookie season, high draft pick, a lot of hype around Chet, of another player that, you know, got injured from a pro-am, and even more so the fact that he's going to miss a whole entire season, which is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Now, kind of transitioning into focusing really about Paolo. So hoopshype.com, one of my favorite websites, been following that website since I was a little kid. But they came out with this amazing article giving recognition to a player, Paolo Banchero. So, Paul, I'm going to ask you first. Paolo Banchero was ranked as the 10th best power forward in the NBA. Included on this list, and I'll kind of rank them real quick. Giannis at 1, Anthony Davis 2, Karl Anthony Towns 3, Zion 4, Pascal 5, Evan Mobley 6, Scotty Barnes 7, Draymond Green 8, Tobias Harris 9, and then Paolo at 10. Do you agree with that list? This is a kid that is 19 years old, hasn't played a day of professional NBA basketball, and he's already being ranked number 10. Do you agree or disagree?
Overall, I'm going to disagree, simply because I'm one of these people. I find these lists ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I really do, but I can't help reading through them either. And I think they're written deliberately for that controversy, that, you know, it starts a debate amongst fans, which is, you know, the website gets attention, the Twitter feed, all that sort of thing gets the attention because it gets people interacting. Paolo is, I do think, going to be an amazing talent. I really do. He is a smooth shooter. He is a playmaker. He's strong. He's going to be strong on defense. But as you said, Anthony, he hasn't played a minute of NBA basketball yet. I'm not going to lie. I'm absolutely buzzing to see him in his first home game in the Amway against Boston. I think that's going to be a great thing to be part of. We've only seen him in Summer League. We haven't seen him go against any of the better opponents in any meaningful minutes. So at this moment in time, I think it's an overstretch. When you look at this, Wendell was 21st, I think, on the list. Aaron Gordon 19th, and then you put Jaren Jackson Jr. he was 11th. Mm-hmm. There's some players there that you could. I think there's argument anyway about restructuring on certain ones. I wouldn't put Zion as high as they've put him. I think you're ignoring a whole lot of injury issues there and time out to actually have him. I think he was ranked 4th. You said, Anthony. So no, I don't agree with the list, but come the end of the season, I can see the argument that he's going to be somewhere in that position. Yeah.
What about you, Mikey?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, until the ball's bounced and we get to see him on the floor, it's all trivial at the moment. We don't get to see much college basketball over here, so we don't get to see so much. We didn't get to see him play at Duke very much last year, so we can't really. I'll tell you what isn't right. Wendell Carter Jr. at 21 and Aaron Gordon at 19. That is not right. That is not right. I'm a big Wendell guy, so I'll defend him to the hill, man. It's hard to disagree with the other 9 below Paolo. And I feel like maybe at this point, Jaren Jackson, again, he's more proven. We know what he is in the NBA. He's on a very good Memphis team as well. But yeah, I think 10th's a fair position for him, but not 21 for Wendell. No chance.
Yeah, I think it makes it hard because what is the rank really? Like, we don't know what factors are utilizing for this rank. They're just saying, This is who we think the 10 best are, right? I personally feel as if maybe they should have put an asterisk on the rookies and they shouldn't be included because they've never played a game of basketball. But just for conversation purposes, right? I think that if we are going to include these rookies, that Paolo should have been a little bit higher than 10, right? So, Al, I'm going to kind of move it to you. When it comes to Paolo Banchero, who would you rather have on your team? Paolo Banchero or Tobias Harris?
That's a good point. Good question.
It's a good one. I mean, it depends on what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to win.
You're adding way too much information. Way too much.
If I could pick only one.
If you can pick only one player right now, Paolo Banchero is now in the Orlando Magic. If you can only add one player to the Orlando Magic right now for this team, for this upcoming season, would you rather Tobias Harris or Paolo Banchero?
it would have to be Paolo for me. Just
Yeah.
if
Hey,
you're
that's
thinking
a
about the Magic right now.
that's a great
That's
choice.
my yeah.
So your favorite West Coast team is the Golden State Warriors. This team right now, would you rather Draymond Green or would you rather Paolo Banchero?
See, I know too much about
You're
that team,
adding
so
way too
it's
much
hard.
information.
It's
Is it
hard. It's
Draymond
hard.
Green
It's
or is it
hard.
Paolo Banchero?
Paolo is the no Paolo. I'm sorry. Draymond is the heart of that team, so it's got to be Draymond just because he's the one
okay.
that kind of he's the building block of what they do.
I would agree
Yeah,
with you.
I'm Draymond as well.
I would agree with you. Would you rather Scotty Barnes or Paolo
That's the one
Banchero?
I wanted. That's the one I wanted. And I also gonna bring it up because I don't know about you guys, but I feel like there's a lot of hype around Scotty Barnes. I understand the potential. I understand the raw potential that he has. Athleticism, defender. He can't shoot. Can't really show anything beyond the free throw line. So I get the future is there. But I'm hearing comparisons to Giannis. I'm hearing all these crazy things out there. Do you guys agree with that? To put him 7th on this list with Scotty Barnes?
I get that it's positional, right? But like if we're putting Franz next to Scotty Barnes, I'm still picking Franz just because I think that longevity wise, I think that Franz will bring more than Scotty Barnes. I'm also a really big Scotty Barnes hater. I hate the fact that he has so much hype. I hate the fact that there was a whole debacle with the Raptor fans and all of that. So I do not root for anything Scotty Barnes related. But if I'm picking Paolo between Scotty, I'm definitely going Paolo. So Draymond Green, I would agree with you. I think that just from a championship pedigree, everything that he's able to bring, he's a floor general in his own right. And I think that you would have to go Draymond Green. But there's 2 players on this list already that you would potentially select Paolo over them. So if it was me, I think Paolo may be a little too high, might be a little too low on this list. I would put him a little bit higher. That's just me.
I can see the argument.
Yeah, I gotta ask Mikey and Paul, in your case, if you could start a team right now, actually on the Magic right now, would you rather have Scotty Barnes or Paolo on the Magic today?
It's Paolo. It's Paolo. You need that number 1 go-to scorer. We've got him. So we've been missing that guy for what feels like years now. So yeah, we've seen these unicorn sort of combo sort of forward sort of players. We've tried that sort of road before and it's not really worked. Paolo's more proven at the college level, and you can see some of what he did at the college level translates really well to the NBA. We've seen that before. So yeah, Paolo for me easily.
Yeah. So that's my point. This is why I love these random articles that these outlets come out with, because it gives us conversations. With that being said, let's move on to another wild article from an outlet. So this is coming from Bleacher Report. So Bleacher Report decided to do a redraft for the 2017 NBA draft. Remember, this is the draft that held the likes of Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz. Now, with that also being said, with this redraft, Jonathan Isaac was selected number 14 in this redraft. Also, with that being said, Markelle Fultz was not anywhere near where he was drafted at 1. So when we're taking a look at that, 19th, right? So when we're taking a look at that, do you consider, because the main debate that everyone has is, well, they kind of have a point. And the point is that they've been injured. So they really haven't been able to produce on the team. We really haven't been able to really see the type of players that they are. But Mikey, I'll give it to you first. Is that an acceptable excuse for these guys? Or have we at least seen flashes enough to where, if we're looking at the NBA draft, that you would still pick them a lot higher than what this report is saying?
Well, I'll start with when healthy. Jonathan Isaac is much better than half of these players that have been picked before him. But what's more valuable, a player that's actually going to play, or the production they're going to give you on the floor, or not even being able to get onto the floor? So, yeah, again, like you said, it's a valid argument why he's further down the list. But look, we know what J.I. is. He's a defensive player of the year candidate, and I think I'm really excited to see J.I. back this year, because I think people forget what sort of impact he had, especially in that 2019 run to the playoffs and with that last stretch of the season. He made a real impact on the defensive end of the floor. And like, even if you go back and watch game 3, he was our standout player, especially in the first stretch of that game. His impact is massive and can't be understated, but the kid's got to play more games, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. So yeah, the value comes in being able to play 82 games for me. So I get it, yeah, but and the same with Markel Fultz too. Like the kid's talented. We saw what he did in the 10-15 games that he returned this year, but yeah, get healthy, man.
Yeah, to give everyone kind of a visual of what this draft looked like, number 1 was Jason Tatum, followed by Bam at 2, Donovan Mitchell 3, Jarrett Allen 4, John Collins 5, Darian Fox 6, Lonzo Ball 7, OG at 8, Derek White 9, Luke Kennard at 10, Lauri Markkanen at 11, Kyle Kuzma, everyone's favorite Kyle Kuzma at 12, Josh Hart 13, followed by Jonathan Isaac at 14. Why is Josh Hart in front of Jonathan Isaac? It's like those are the things, like the injuries. I get not being able to play a majority of a season. I get it, but not having Markel Fultz nowhere near the lottery 14, I find insane. Jonathan Isaac, at least you have something special. There's something there. You're still trying to figure out what that is, but there's something there. Al, what are you thinking? Is injuries enough to be able to push these guys back in a redraft?
I think so. I mean, obviously, they got to play more, both of them, J.I. and Markel both. However, there are some names in that list that I'm just like, really? Even if I had the chance today, knowing that Markel and J.I. were injured, I would probably take my chance on them before this guy. So Derek White is one of them. Good role player, but I'm not going to pick him with a top 10 pick in the draft, knowing who he is as a player. Luke Kennard, good shooter. What else can he really do besides that? The NBA, not really much. Lauri Markkanen, another guy that's solid, but always hurt. So if I'm comparing J.I. to him, I'll take J.I.'s potential over his. And like you mentioned, Josh Hart. So those are 4 names to me that should not be in that list above Jonathan Isaac. I understand the concerns. I understand the issues with injuries. But even if I knowingly knew that, like what the Magic did with Chuma Okeke, drafting him with a knee injury, and J.I., that was the same situation, I would still draft him above these guys because of what he can be down the road. If you develop him properly, build his body, which the Magic have been doing, I think, like Mikey mentioned, his potential is top defender in the NBA at the very least. So get him healthy, get him back on the court. That's what you're getting. Those other guys are role players at best.
So Jonathan Isaac was drafted number 6 in that 2017 NBA draft. So we're looking at Lonzo Ball, who was also a player that has struggled with injuries. I would take Jonathan Isaac over Lonzo Ball. OG, have you guys seen a lot of OG? Al, maybe?
Not really. I know he's solid with the Raptors, but not very much.
Yeah, my understanding that he's solid as well. Another player that dealt with injuries. Derek White has been a really good role player. Luke, same thing. Lauri I would say that he's a little bit better than a role player, but definitely not at an all-star level. Kyle Kuzma, you can make that debate, but Josh Hart, I still don't get. So, Paul, if you were to draft Jonathan Isaac, or if you were to put Jonathan Isaac somewhere in that board, where would you draft him at realistically? At one number, what number would he
I still don't regret us taking him on this redraft. My initial thoughts were behave. I'm not going to lie. I felt it ridiculous that he dropped so much. Once you read through, I can see the arguments for 11th or 12th. But I would, if I was in the top 10, I would still have took Jonathan Isaac. Yeah, we know he's been injury prone. Yeah, we know that there's no guarantees that when he returns, and I'm not saying if, I'm saying when he returns, that he's going to be the same player as he was. He's played 141 total NBA games. He's recorded a game high of 25 points, 6 blocks, his highest 13 rebounds, and his highest 5 assists. We know he can shoot the 3 when on times. Let's not forget he did make 5 out of 7 in one game. Think back to his second season. he was seen as a cornerstone of this team's future. Nobody, as a Magic fan, would have accepted a trade for him. When you look at the 2019-20 season, and Bleacher Report actually made reference to this in this article, he averaged 28.8 minutes per game, 2.3 blocks, 1.6 steals, 6.8 rebounds, and shot 34% from deep. Of course, you're going to take him as a solid first 10 pick, and he is a automatic inclusion on your starting lineup when he's fit, on those figures. So yeah, I would still take him, and I don't regret us taking him, and I'm not ready to give up on him yet.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the draft, it's hard to look at Jonathan Isaac and not think of injuries, not think of all the off court.
The attendance stuff that's gone with it.
Yeah, the off court stuff that's kind of just now attached to Jonathan Isaac. I would agree that I would still consider him at 6. I think Darian Fox at 6 would still kind of pique my attention during that time frame, because Darian Fox, I think, is a player that is, in my opinion, needs to be moved out of Sacramento quickly. That's just me. But Al, let's get into the next one. So we really want to break down some couple thoughts from you guys in regards to a season preview. Al, what do we have?
Okay.
Yeah, so let's start it off with a simple question. Thoughts on the offseason moves or lack thereof by the front office. How do you guys feel about it? Do you guys feel like the team is good enough for next season as it is? Or were you guys wishing for maybe more movement in our roster?
Mikey, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, okay. I'm happy. I felt that our summer was always going to revolve around that number 1 pick. We took that player in Paolo. We now need to see what we have remaining in that squad. I can understand the clamour around Magic fans for bigger moves, to go in and try and get somebody. Donovan Mitchell is the obvious one that keeps getting mentioned. I can understand that. But for me, we have to see what we have with Paolo and what we have with the rest of this young core. Markel, Jalen, Cole, the backcourt are all playing for a position and all have something to prove to both the team and the fans and the NBA as a wider public. JI's return and the re-sign of Mo Bamba make the backcourt a really interesting battleground as well for, starting positions and minutes. We all rate Wendell, so we need to see how they all mesh together. You then throw in that Franz is coming off an exceptional and probably underrated rookie season. So we need to see how he's going to develop further, and looking what he's doing over in Europe with Germany at the moment. Once we've seen what we've got this season, I'm happy for us to potentially swing bigger in free agency and trades next summer. I'm happy with what we've done. I would rather have a measured approach than throwing a bag at Serge Ibaka and moving Vic and a pick on again like we did before.
Yeah, Paul, I think you said a really good point. I think when it comes to the offseason, people automatically just look at Gary Harris and then Mo Bamba. Like, man, that's all you guys did? You guys didn't do anything else? But no one's including the fact that in this offseason, part of that offseason is Paolo Banchero. Like, he is that. This is a stud, a potential number 1 option that you're adding to this team already, that is going to greatly increase the talent pool that we have. And the fact that people don't include him in the conversation, I find it nuts, because he's going to be a big part of this basketball team. You're also taking into account that you have a second season from Franz, that you're right. He has a very, very, very underrated rookie season from an outside perspective. And then you're hoping to get a healthier Jalen Suggs that only played maybe 40 plus games. I think it was like 42, 43 games last season. So you're hoping that you're going to add something a little bit more there. And I think that there's a lot of different elements that it could be the reason why the Magic decided not to do anything else. What about you, Mikey? What do you think?
I really like the off season. Again, like you said, you've already touched on Banchero's the big fish that we landed with the number 1 pick. The thing that I really like about this roster is the real competition that there is for minutes in every position now. I mean, you can look at it now, and you can really say, right, well, there's 4 nailed on starters with Fultz, Franz Wagner, Banchero, and Wendell, but they've got players breathing down their necks. I mean, Bamba's going to push Wendell for minutes. You're going to have JI coming back this year. If Banchero's not playing well, he's gonna be wanting to have more playing time now he's healthy. The guard position, like I said, Suggs and Cole Anthony, they're going to want minutes at the guard positions. And then you've got the 2 veterans who are also going to push these kids as well to be great, with Gary Harris and Terrence Ross. So I like the balance. And then you've obviously then got the flexibility of all the different lineups that this team can put out this season in different situations. Where, I mean, we've already talked about like the 4 big lineups with Franz, Banchero, JI, Wendell. You could have Bamba playing at the 5 in that. Like we got some real versatility on this roster. The most important thing going into this season is figuring out what's the guys who are we really building around moving forwards, and who's ready to move on. So yeah, like I said, Banchero's he was the number 1 pick. We've needed that number 1 option. That was what we were really missing. We've got that now. He's got lots of complementary pieces, and we've already talked about his potential of playing with Franz Wagner. It's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, my perspective has always been, all right, let's pretend for a moment that Gary Harris and Mo Bamba was not on this team. That they just weren't. All right. Let's just say for a moment, let's pretend that we signed 2 players this offseason, and we signed Gary Harris and Mo Bamba. Not with any knowledge that they were on the team previously. I think a lot of people would be extremely hyped about those signings. When you're looking at shooting guards and big men, these are players that were ranked pretty high when it came to the free agent availabilities, the free agent targets. And I think that people will learn to love Mo Bamba so much more now, with the fact that he knows what his role is. He accepted his role. He's not the Kevin Garnett type of player that people were expecting for him to be early on. And he's a player that, as we know, Wendell Carter hasn't been the healthiest player in the NBA. He's someone that has really dealt with these injuries. So the fact that if something were to happen with Wendell, we know, like, we've accepted the fact that that's our center. That's day one. That's your position. You earned it. But if something were to happen, I think that we can all agree that we would feel pretty comfortable with Mo Bamba at least stepping in and holding the fort down until Wendell's up and running. What about you, Al?
Yeah, I think you guys said it best. I mean, this year is all about seeing what we have, seeing who's on the roster, who's going to stay here long term. That's the biggest thing. And then next offseason, it's going to be fun. You have a lot of money to play with. You have some decisions to make. So I think it's a building block to what's next with this team. I think we're now, accruing assets, throwing them on the court together, say, hey, what's going to stick? And I think that's what this year is all about. And again, I think we'll be surprised. Another thing that we're not really talking about here is J.I. Markel. 2 guys that you're pretty much adding to this team as well. They barely played last year. And when Markel did play, this team looked incredible. They played 500 basketball until they started to really blatantly tank the last few weeks. They were playing really, really well. So I think when you consider that, in reality, you're adding, again, like you said, Anthony, Mo Bamba, Gary Harris, but then add to that a healthy J.I., a healthy Markel, Paolo Banchero. It's a fun team to watch. And also a full season, hopefully, of Jalen Suggs. So I think I'm okay with that. I think there's a lot of debate out there. Hey, should the Magic pull the trigger, go for a guy like Donovan Mitchell, go for a guy that can kind of change the dynamic of the team? Obviously, I think if that were to happen, I think none of us in the screen right now would hate it and would say, what did we just do? However, we're all being realistic. We're not there just yet. We are getting there pretty soon. We cannot pay 14 guys millions and millions of dollars to be on the roster. So at some point, that time will come. That day is not today, in my opinion. But with that being said, I know, Mikey, you made a good point about building blocks and finding who those are. Next question for you guys here is, name me your top 3 building blocks on this team today. And by that, I mean three guys that if a team was to call you, let's call them the Knicks, and said, I want that player, you will just hang up right away. Who are those guys?
Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, and Wendell Carter for me. That's the three. I think Zach Lowe said this best on one of his episodes a few months back when he had Kevin Clark on from The Ringer, and they were discussing about what players of the Magic got on this roster now that you could see being building blocks on a title contender in the next 5-10 years, and those were the three guys that their names come up. I think there's too many question marks around everybody else when like we've already discussed, like Markelle Fultz. We know we can't expect him to be that number one pick Markelle Fultz anymore, but the impact that he has when he is on the floor really makes a difference to this team. But we've not seen him stay healthy for long enough. The same with J.I. Jalen Suggs had a really disappointing rookie season. Let's just say it how it is. But I'm expecting a lot from him this year. Cole Anthony on the defensive end, and his consistency needs to improve with his efficiency offensively. So we've got lots of pieces, but for me, the three guys that have proven that, apart from Banchero, the two guys that have proven that they are solid players and you know what they're going to bring every night is Wendell Carter and Franz Wagner. And Banchero, obviously, when you invest the number one pick in a guy, you're not moving him unless it's for some superstar player. So yeah, I'm hanging up if their names are mentioned.
I'm on the same three people, but technically I'm only on two, Paolo and Franz. Anybody else, I'm listening. J.I. was that person before the injury. Let's hope he can get himself back to being in that position. But as of this moment, I'm two with Paolo and Franz, and if I've got to put a third there, then it's Wendell.
His contract is what really nails that down for me.
Mike, you beat me to it.
Sorry, man.
You beat me to it.
Yeah.
It's the contract. The contract is ridiculous. The contract is ridiculous.
Coming back to what we said before, in that list, he should have been way higher than number 21. He is far more valuable, and for me, underrated than that position shows it.
Yeah, I think I would say, though, if he plays the way that he played in the second half of the season for the entire season coming up, I think he will go up quite a bit in that list. I think it's just people are looking at it as, hey, he's never really been healthy that long. He put it together for a few months, but can he do that consistently? So it's all about now doing it. And I mean, I got to witness a guy hand first going to all the games and sitting near the Magic bench when I go to the games. And I got to tell you, like, the guy really went from being a guy that I'm just like, oh, I like Wendell Carter, to a guy that when he would show up to arena and warm up and you see him kind of getting ready for games, he looks like an all-star. The way he's carrying himself, his body, he's looking leaner, how he's playing on the court, showing emotion. So I can definitely see this guy kind of becoming something more than just a starter in the NBA. So I think we're going to see that this season coming up if the health is there. And again, on that list, you can see him definitely be at least top 12, top 10 next season coming up.
Yeah, his contract is insane. So when it comes to untouchables, it needs to make sense. Like for me, a player like Jonathan Isaac, trading him right now, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because we finally get to a point where he's healthy and we're going to be able to see him play basketball this season. Like we know that that's happening. And the thing is that let's say that some team does call and say, hey, what do you want for Jonathan Isaac? What you're sending out in Jonathan Isaac, you're not going to get back. There was a one of those trade scenarios, a mock trade that we saw that had Jonathan Isaac being traded for Buddy Hield and a protected first round pick. Realistically, Indiana's not doing that. It doesn't make sense for Indiana. Why is Indiana sending out Buddy Hield to protect the first for Jonathan Isaac? Unless they know something that we don't know about Jonathan Isaac. But the Magic are in such a great position with Jonathan Isaac that we know that he didn't meet the terms of how many games that he played in order to make his full contract guaranteed. We know that there's a lot of flexibility to where if he turns out not to be the Jonathan Isaac, that we're expecting in a healthy situation, then if we decide to waive him, we're not losing any money financially. So then when I look at a player like Wendell Carter Jr., he's 4 years, $50 million, and every year his contract is declining. This is a part of the reason why I absolutely love our front office, because every player in their contracts are set up this way. We're looking at Gary Harris' contract. This year's guaranteed, but next year is not guaranteed. So everything that they're doing, every step seems like it's being calculated. I would also agree with you, Mikey. I would include Wendell Carter in that third spot with Paolo and Franz. But financially, Wendell Carter, I almost feel bad for him that he signed that contract because he signed that contract before he had this killer amazing season. And then now he's balling out, and now I'm sure he's like, damn, if I would have bet on myself, because he would have definitely got way more than that 50 mil. I still can't. I'd say this all the time. It is by far the best contract in the NBA. There's no reason why his agent, and I get why, because so a player like him has to accept that contract because he's injury prone.
Yeah.
But that 4-year, 50 mil, and that contract is starting this season, is looking amazing more and more every time we see him play.
Man, how do you think Chicago feel right now?
Oh yeah,
My goodness,
poor guys.
it's got to sting, huh?
It's rough. Like hindsight, right? We're looking at Nikola Vucevic for Franz, Wendell, and we still got a draft pick.
Got a pick. Yep.
Still got a pick.
Year.
It's like Vuce is amazing, but thank you.
Absolutely. I think there is the flip side for Chicago on that without landing Vooch, it showed some ambition. They wouldn't have got some of the other guys come in during last summer. I know it didn't work out particularly brilliantly for them over the season, but they're in a position to build.
It worked out for both teams. Chicago was a team that, because of Vooch, they were able to get DeRozan, and they made moves for Lonzo. So really, the big fish for Chicago, what they got out of it is being able to sign Zach LaVine to a contract, and having him stay there. Because if they didn't do that, if they didn't show some type of life to kind of help better that team, there's no way, in my opinion, that he would end up staying. Now, we do have an extremely young team, right? We have vets in maybe potentially Terrence Ross. You have vets in Gary Harris. We have young vets in Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac. But when it comes to who you guys view this team as a leader, who is that one player that you guys are saying, this is the guy? This guy is going to be the one that leads this team moving forward. And I know that, maybe you have teams that you have multiple leaders, but the Magic need to have at least that one. Who is that one? Paul?
Verbally, in the locker room and on the bench, you can't look past Cole. You can't look past Cole. You saw him when he was out back end of the season, how he was supporting that team, how he was encouraging, how he was coaching people. I also think that Wendell is in that group as well. I think Wendell will have the ear of people. And I also think that that's the importance of bringing Gary Harris back. In bringing him back, he is an experienced veteran who will have people listen to his experience and his words, but it's hard to see past Cole.
I agree. Mikey?
I find this one hard to answer, to be honest. I agree with Paul verbally, but I just feel like for a guy that's not actually played that many games, Markelle Fultz, the experience that he's had, the things that he's gone through, being the number one pick, that's going to be really valuable to somebody like Banchero. And he's obviously gone through a lot off the floor with his injuries and the expectations on his shoulders and all that sort of stuff. And he's still coming back, and we saw what he brought to the Magic at the end of last season. And I think he's going to be one of the quieter, sort of like arm on your shoulder sort of guys. He's got a level head. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. He's not going to let emotions get away from him a little bit. So I think Markel's leadership is certainly probably not talked about enough. But yeah, there's lots of guys that can take that can be that guy.
It is,
but
yeah, it is going to be a collective leadership as a team. I think you're going to see. I agree with Mikey that you're going to see Markel leading, particularly on the court because of having ball in hand. Equally, I think that's going to be the case with Paolo, that he's going to very, very quickly become that person that people look to amongst the team. That's why I said verbally, because I think in the locker room, Cole's going to be that person who is firing everybody up. I'm guessing that he's kind of the person who's picking everybody's playlist to listen to before they go out to get them all hyped and giving it the in the huddle. He's the one who's going to be shouting. Yeah.
But again, this is the different dynamics that this roster's got. Like, there's going to be situations where players need somebody like Cole to get in their ear and get them going. And then there's going to be situations like at an end of a game where the game's tight, or you got one possession to go and win the game, and you need to be calm, and you need to really think about the way you're going to approach those last few seconds of a game, those last few possessions. I feel like we've got all those different dynamics in the locker rooms. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I was
What about
watching.
you guys? Where would you go?
I was watching so we know that Patrick Beverley just got traded over to the Lakers, and I was watching an interview that popped up in my feed that he had a few months ago about, what team would he want to play with, and he had said that if he was on the Lakers, they would make it to the playoffs. Patrick Beverley, he is saying that if he was added to the Los Angeles Lakers, that team would be a playoff team, and his reasoning behind it was the fact that he feels that team doesn't have a leader. Yeah, it's LeBron, but LeBron is doing a lot of everything. There's nobody else to keep LeBron accountable, and he believes that he would be that guy. And it kind of made me think, like, he's kind of right. He has a point. I don't know if he would make them a playoff team, but he's kind of right in the point where, you don't have to be the best player to be the leader on the team. Yep. So, Paul, I would agree with you. I would select Cole Anthony, but I wouldn't select Cole Anthony just because he's vocal. I would also select him because, so I'll put it to you this way, and Al, I'm going to ask you this question. If the game is on the line, the game is tied 79-79, fourth quarter, 10 seconds left on the clock, you're inballing the ball into the court, we have possession, who would be the one player on the Magic that you would feel comfortable, live or die, taking the last shot?
I mean, based on previous history and in most recent history, really, that guy's got to be Cole Anthony, right? He's already proven that he can hit that shot. He's willing to take it. And I think also willing to deal with the consequences if he misses. So I think that would be the guy that I would kind of count on. However, with a full healthy Magic team right now, it's kind of tough because you got Paolo out there, you got Franz out there. Wendell, if having a good night, it's tough to say who that guy would be. But if I had to say one, it would be Cole Anthony for me.
If you're running a play, maybe Wendell Carter. Right. We've seen Paolo Banchero kind of, and granted, summer league, I get you can't put too much into it, but he was already put in a situation where, the game was on the line multiple times in regulation and in overtime where he could take the last shot, and the last minute he decided to pass the ball, which is great. I love the playmaking. But I just think that there's something about Cole Anthony that he wants it. And I think that that's part of that's what makes certain leaders different than others. He's the type of person that he wants to give me the basketball. I want to take the last shot. And like you said, Al, he's willing to deal with the consequences, whether it goes in, it goes out. He's already done it twice, which I think that it's a big thing. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to be able to walk it also. And I think that Cole Anthony has that interesting dynamic where he's extremely vocal. He's not like Markel, where Markel's demeanor seems like he's a little more reserved. Cole Anthony is vocal. He's the type of person that wear some Timberlands in the NBA Slam Dunk contest in New York in front of the whole entire world and not care about it. And he's also the type to say, "Give me the basketball, let me try and make him play." And I think that, in my opinion, he would be the person that I would think would be the leader of the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I said, there's a lot of guys that can lead in different ways in the locker room, in my opinion. But I think as of right now, Cole's got to get that responsibility. I would assume. But like Mikey said, I think a guy like Markel Fultz, tons of already things in the NBA, experience in the NBA, leads in a different way. He's a great playmaker, acts like a leader on the court. I could see that also being a guy that leads in the locker room as well. And I'm going to throw a controversial one out there too, just because I've heard the guy speak, and man, like he gets my attention right away. Jonathan Isaac is another guy that, to me, when he is on the court, when he is part of the team, when he's involved, I think guys respect his opinion. When he speaks, I think they respect what he has to say. So I think in a different way than Cole, I think he could be a guy that, if he is healthy, he's actually playing the games. If he sits you down and say, "Hey guys, what's going on? Let's talk about this," I think the room listens automatically because he's the one speaking. So I can see him becoming more of a leader as he kind of gets acquainted back to the team once again.
That dude is not afraid of controversy.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the strengths, something that the front office have done particularly well as well in keeping JI involved. You know, again, where it's something that we seem to do with guys who are out, involve them in the coaching process, keep them active within the framework of the team. I do think our front office is underrated. Perhaps controversial.
Easy. And then, Mikey, I agree with you. I think that everyone has a little element to their leadership to where it might just be a team effort. And you have others that lead by example, and you have others that lead vocally. And I think that what makes this team so special is that somehow it all works. And I think that eventually we're going to be able to see the fruits of it. But kind of transitioning to our last segment of this episode, we're going to do a very quick over and under rapid fire. We're going to give you some things, and then from both of you, we just want to hear if you think that it'll be over that number or under. So the very first one, it's actually one of my favorites. I picked this one. Jonathan Isaac will play 50 games, over and under.
Under.
I'm going over.
Ooh, what's your over?
51. Nudge.
Safe. I like it. Good call.
I'm playing it safe.
Franz Wagner, 3-point percentage for the season, 37%.
Over.
Ooh.
Both over. I like that.
Sharpshooters. Paolo Banchero, assists per game, Mr. Playmaker, 4.
Over.
And this isn't me being negative. I'm going to go under, just because I'm not sure how he's going to have the ball in his hands quite as much as we expect to start the season. So,
okay,
but over would be nice.
Yeah. All right, guys, a few more here going. So players that will average 17 points per game or more, let's set the number at 2. Over or under?
Over.
Who are the 2?
Paolo and Cole Anthony.
How about you, Paul?
I think it'll be Franz and Wendell.
Ooh.
So you guys think
I think
we'll have at least 2 or more players?
If you haven't worked out, most of the time me and Paul just like being different. So
good call, Paul.
Yeah, I think that, and I do think that Cole will be getting close to it as well.
Okay. All right. Next one, Markelle Fultz, points per game. We're setting the number at 14.
Under.
I'm gonna go under as well.
Hey, you guys agreed?
That's it. This episode's over.
Done.
All right, next one. The players representing the Magic in the All-Star game. The number is set at 1.
Under.
That's it, Al. You only give us
0. Under.
Yeah.
So under for both. Okay, last one. Magic position in the standings in the Eastern Conference at the end of the season. I'm setting the Magic at 10th in the East by the end of the season. So be careful with this one. If you say lower, that means that we don't make the play-in tournament. If you're saying over, that means that at least we're making the play-in tournament. So go for it.
And I'm gonna keep this, and we're gonna revisit it.
Hey,
and make sure
I'm
I have
planning
this
to be
clip
back in April. I'm planning to be back in April, so I'm saying we're finishing.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, let's go over. We're gonna finish
Nice.
9th.
There you go, Mikey. All right, guys, man, a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys joining us so much. If you guys haven't heard Penny for Your Thoughts podcast, definitely a must listen to. You guys have an amazing podcast, an amazing group that you guys are growing. Make sure you go over to the YouTube page. I believe the YouTube page is Orlando Magic UK. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Mikey, where is it that everyone can follow you on the social medias?
You can follow us all at Orlando Magic UK on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Like I said, the YouTube channel, Penny for Your Thoughts. The podcast, Penny for Your Thoughts, which you can also find on our YouTube channel. And you can follow me on Twitter at Mikey Clark 87.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you guys joining us so much. You guys are coming down in October. I told you guys when you guys come down, your first round is on me. You also mentioned that you're coming down with 25 people. So I just want to reinforce that only your drinks are on me. On that
That's
note,
not what you said. It's
No,
recorded.
I just want to make sure that was clear.
Are you guys going to be there opening night for the Boston game?
I'll be there.
We will be there.
So we'll definitely offline connect and make sure that we get together and have some a good time before the game.
Absolutely. On
Good
that
luck.
note,
Looking
it's a
forward to
wrap.
it.
I appreciate you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Magic fans. For all the latest Orlando Magic news and updates, follow us on Twitter at the OZone Pod and on Instagram at Orlando Magic HQ. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on all your favorite podcast listening platforms.